The world being a scary and confusing place is undeniably nothing new. Ever since the beginning of human times, we have seen a lot of challenges as a species, from diseases and plagues, all the way to great wars. The times that we live in now are arguably some of the most comfortable. But with that being said, we are still facing some huge challenges that I don't think a lot of people, or enough people at least, are making themselves aware of. Now, whilst we might have channels like mine, and people like you guys who watch, who like to keep ourselves up to date with the latest news, I'm seeing an increasing number of people, the more and more I go through life and speak to people about more interesting subjects, who just want to continue and choose to continue like we're living in a time of the past, when in reality, that can be nothing further from the truth. And this is actually a interesting thing, because it's this very failure to understand where we are in the modern world that's going to lead these people down a path where they're going to be a lot more difficult, things are going to be a lot worse off if they don't wake up to this. I just want to bring you guys attention to a few facts, right? I make a lot of opinion-based comments on this channel because that's kind of the intention of this channel, but at the same time, facts are not opinions. Facts are realities. And I want to focus on some facts when we speak about a few things here. Look at the price of houses comparative to the earnings that people make. Look at the amount of people who are single in the younger generation, always have been. Look at the amount of people who are lonely. Look at job satisfaction. And all of these different statistics. Household debt, national debt. We can go on with all of these different things. The world is not the same place it was in 2019. Seriously. Let alone what it was in 1975 or 1950. A lot of the ideas, even in our generation, and I am someone who is quite young, right? I would probably be in the Gen Z generation. A lot of the ideas that we are told don't work anymore. They don't work anymore. Yet we still have a generation of people who are going through believing all these things, when in reality they wouldn't work the same way. Some of them obviously would. And I'm not here to talk about specific ideas, but this idea, I think, as a whole, the whole concept that you can just go through your whole life, you don't really need to invest that much. We don't need to, we can just get a stable job. Look at the conditions of today's markets, right? Look at the high in the stock market right now. Is it realistic? Can it continue? I don't know if it can, I don't know if it can't, but we'll see. It's at a very, very high point. Historically the highest point obviously ever in the past year or so, but look at it on a chart since the 1960s or the 1980s or 2008, right? Look at where the stock market is since 2008. Is this the same investment vehicle it was in the 60s? Are we going to expect this to continue to grow at the rate it's grown since 1965? I think housing is perhaps a bit more stable because houses are just not being built at the rate that they need to be, and demand does appear to keep growing. And people might say, well, house prices in, I don't know, Manchester or Edinburgh or other cities, right? They're not going to reach a couple thousand. Well, house prices in London are already, rents in London can be up to a couple thousand a month. Why is it not unrealistic to expect that in most parts of Manchester or other cities, Leeds, Birmingham? Are we likely to see that in the future? We're already seeing it in some places, and I think these places are just a sign of the future. Then we look at inflation. Let's not even get started on inflation, eh? The thing that's taking away all of our money secretly. No matter who you are, unless you're an asset owner, of course, inflation is likely having a negative effect on you. Some people benefit from inflation, of course. Asset inflation simply means that prices have gone up. So if you are in a house where asset inflation has occurred, you've probably made a profit or an increase in what the house value was. But for most people, the comprehensive benefits of inflation, they don't exist, right? And they're just detrimental. So inflation is high. Maybe it's going to drop, maybe it's not. It's just worth considering. The jobs market, right? The big one is the jobs market. I'm telling you guys, because I've done it, I've spoken about it, and I'll tell you again. I applied for hundreds of jobs. It took me that long to get 3 interviews. I think it was 3 interviews I actually got approved for. So one of them actually got cancelled, so it was 4, then it turned to 3. These were for basic jobs, and I'm not saying basic jobs like an office admin, where I came out of my degree and I'm talking about working in a shop, right? I was applying warehouse, bars, early, late, I'll do night shifts, I'll do this, No good jobs going. No reasonable jobs going. It took me literally about 250 applications to even get into an interview. And of course, I did get the job in the end, but that's another story for a different video. This is the reality of today's jobs market, and these companies, they don't care that much. This is my experience, maybe I'm wrong. They don't care very much. They will happily dismiss you. They'll use you as a unit of labour and nothing else, right? We're talking reduced benefits, reduced safety nets if possible, temporary contracts, 0 hours contracts, anything that benefits them. And people say these things can benefit you. You know, you can be a 0 hours contractor whilst you're working on the side and then going to school or university or college. Who sets the shift patterns? It's the employer. So who chooses what hours you do? Is it you or is it the employer? You see where I'm coming from there, right? So going back to the point, this is not the same jobs market. Look at society as a whole, right? And I'm not saying this is necessarily a huge problem, but it does appear to be becoming a problem more and more. Look at how people can't go and have a conversation without bringing this along. And, you know, always sat there scrolling along like this, you know, well, this is how most people interact nowadays. Perhaps exclusively through this, perhaps partially through this. That is how they go off. People don't go and meet new people. People are not open enough to meet new people. They're too afraid. People are more lonely than ever. Their dating options are reduced, right? And I only say these things not to create some doom and gloom. And I know that when you make negative videos, they do better than when you make positive ones. I've seen the effects of both. But this is not that. This is just saying I don't understand how people can be so comfortable and unaware. Maybe they are aware, but seemingly unaware of the times that we're living in. Do what you want, guys, but at the same time, look at the reality around you. Like I say, the returns that we've seen in the housing market, the stock market, other things, are these realistic to continue for the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years till you retire? If we're not living in the same world, then we should not be comfortable following old systems. It'd be about as sensible as me telling you guys to take a sailboat to France, that's going to take however long, when we could get a plane that's going to take like half an hour or an hour. There's the same level of intelligence and awareness. We would be really, really sacrificing a lot when we just don't need to. It'd be like saying walk from here to Scotland when you could take a car. We're doing things in a way that might still work, but you're unnecessarily fighting an uphill battle. So what might the solution be? Well, the solution is to start thinking about what it is that you want and where it is that you're going. Because if you're just following the path, you're not going anywhere. Probably. We're talking build an online stream of income or some sort of a business as well as working a job. Not instead. If you're in the early stages and you've got low income, you need both. We're talking investing soon as we can in the right things. And I'm not here to tell you what they are, right? You may run a business and realise that you can make X amount by investing this in that, and you may feel more comfortable from that, or not. Maybe you buy a house. It depends what you want to do with these ideas, concepts. But the concept, in my opinion, of still living like it's a time gone by and expecting everything just to be okay, is the general trend going that way? Are you feeling like one day it'll be more affordable for you to buy a house or less? Or do you feel like the stock market's becoming easier to enter at good prices or harder? Do you feel more stable in your jobs than you maybe did a couple of years ago? Do you feel like your pay is fairer than it was? Some of you guys will probably be able to answer yes to all of these questions, and you are the guys who are smashing it in life. But I know from what I hear from the comments, that's not most of you, and I don't blame you for that. But the point is this, like it or hate it, a lot of trends in today's markets, today's societies, are not what they were 30, 50, 70 years ago. A lot of things in this time are better. And I think that's undeniable. But a lot of things are different. Some things are worse. And if this is the actual truth of it, then we need to make ourselves aware of it. So the answer is that we can't be comfortable in these times. Like I say, I run online businesses. You guys might do that. You might not. You might do something else. But you can't really just go about, I think, in a way that perhaps you could have done in the past. It wouldn't make much sense given today's markets. Everything has changed. Society's changed. Society's changing. And it's changing as well constantly. It's changing fast. That doesn't mean that you need to panic. It doesn't even mean that you need to change anything. But how are more people not at least aware of this? People just sit and complain, but they don't realise what this actually means. It means that things are not going to work the same anymore. If you keep trying something and it's not working, then it's not going to work. Likely. This idea of doing a few things and you'll be rich one day, very, very slim, increasingly slim of happening. Because the chances that you'll be able to buy a house that's going to appreciate X amount of value and invest in the markets and get a good... all of these things are not happening. So just make yourself aware of it, because we are in crazy times, and it's one thing if you don't mind. Some people don't care about these things, the money about it, the consequences, good and bad, but it's not all good. And it might not all be good for the future. So with that being made aware, or with that being brought into awareness or to awareness, let's think about what that means for ourselves, our aims and our ambitions, and make choices according. This idea of just following a path and it'll all work out is unlikely to happen for most people. And when we can make ourselves aware of that, we can start to think about what could work for us.